All right, this is Mr. Wiersma. This is my sixth and final presentation this year. This is going to be short and sweet. This one is on succession. There are two kinds of succession. They are primary and secondary, and we will learn about the differences in the next slides. But in a nutshell, what succession is a change in the plant species that occupy an area over time, and typically it goes from shade intolerant species which basically like the sun, and shade tolerant species, which basically can grow more in the shade. So here's the next slide. There are two kinds of succession. They are primary and secondary. Primary occurs on bare rocks, such as new volcanic islands or on land that's been scoured right down to bare rock by glaciers, as you see in the picture to the left. Secondary occurs on disturbed land, such as after fires or logging or abandoned farming, etc. And we will talk about secondary succession and primary succession in the next slide. As we said in the previous slide, secondary succession occurs on disturbed land. And if you look at the pictures above, you will see logging that occurred. And then the right slide shows you what happens after a fire. Both of those processes destroy the existing vegetation, allowing sunlight to reach the forest floor, and then getting that regrowth occurring again. In Michigan, there are literally hundreds of species of trees, but some of those trees can tolerate shade and some cannot tolerate a lot of shade. If they require a fair amount of sun, they're called shade intolerant, and those include such things as white and red pine, aspen and cottonwoods, and cherries and willows and such. The shade-tolerant trees in Michigan include the spruces and the firs and the hemlocks, as well as the white and black oak. These two slides show you typical forest. The top slide is a forest in early succession. Those are aspen trees predominantly, which again are shade intolerant. And after a disturbance such as fire and logging, those are typically the trees that grow first. Over time, those trees die with age, and the undercover, because it's shaded now, can no longer support aspen trees. So now what happens is the shade tolerant trees such as spruce and hemlock and fir trees, these evergreens, will grow underneath the aspen trees and then over time replace them. This last slide shows you the progression of a forest over time. Again, this is called succession. This would be, you can't really tell from the picture, it could be secondary or primary, but as you see, it starts out with the sun-loving weeds, the grasses and the herbs and so forth. Then you get the shrubs, which around here in southwest Michigan, which would be sassafras, or excuse me, the wild raspberry and wild rose. You get goldenrod weeds growing, wild mustard. Then over time, it's replaced by shade intolerant trees. Again, those trees that really like a lot of sun, which include aspens and cottonwoods and white pine and red pine, cherries and so forth around here. Then over time, those trees die to replaced and are replaced by the shade tolerant trees, which in southwest Michigan include the oak and hickory forest. Now up in the UP, that climax forest, that last forest, would be mainly the hemlock fir forest. I do want to comment before I'm done that that climax forest, that last forest to inhabit the ecosystem, that will stay a climax forest unless the forest is disturbed again. So that disturbance again could be fire or logging and things like that. Forest managers try to maintain a diversity of habitats. They want some young forest and some mature forest. So that's why forest managers will actually have prescribed burns and encourage logging in some areas to get that young forest, which then encourages a diversity of wildlife as well. Thank you, and hope have a good rest of the school year.